He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Nama Eva Kevalam Kalau Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyatha. Welcome back, everyone, to the last part of this series on Srila Raghunatha Dasa Goswami's Manah-Siksa, Instructions to the Mind. And Haribol Gaur Narayan Maharaha. Nice to see your names at least here again. Oh, there you are, Gaur Narayan. Haribol. So we've reached the penultimate verse. Today I'm going to speak about two verses, verses 11 and 12. So let me again share the screen, and then I will share the Sanskrit verse with you as usual. Samam Shri Rupena Smara Vivasha Radha Giribhritor 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 Vraje Sakshat Seva Labhana Vidhaye Tad Ganayujo Vraje Sakshat Seva Labhana Vidhaye Tad Gunayujo Vraje Sakshat Seva Labhana Vidaye Tad Ganayujo Vraje Sakshat Seva Labhana Vidaye Tad Ganayujo Taridjakya Dhyana Shravananati Panchamritamidam Taridjakya Dhyana Shravananati Panchamritamidam Taridjakya Dhyana Shravananati Panchamritamidam Taridjakya Dhyana Shravananati Panchamritamidam Dhyanitya Govardhanam Anudinam Tvam Bhajamana Dhyanitya Govardhanam Anudinam Tvam Bhajamana Dhyanitya Govardhanam Anudinam Tvam Bhajamana Dhyanitya Govardhanam Anudinam Tvam Bhajamana. Here in the penultimate verse of the Manah-Siksa, Srila Raghunatha Dasa Goswami brings us back to Govardhana, this sacred hill of Vrindavan, by the side of which he spent the best part of his life. In many ways, you could think that Raghunatha Dasa Goswami's life culminated when he spent time together with Mahaprabhu in Puri, in Jagannath Puri, that was the best part of his life. And of course, in some ways it was. What could be better than spending your time in the direct association of the Lord? Direct company of the Lord is in Rupa Goswami's theology called sambhoga, or union. And this is what he could enjoy there in Jagannath Puri. He wasn't living exactly in the same house as Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira. He was staying with Swarupa Damodar, a little bit off, but still they would meet every single day. Then Mahaprabhu passed away. And we can imagine what a catastrophe that must have been for all of his followers. He passed away quite quickly and surprisingly. he passed away. So as I said, the first time he contemplated taking his life. Finally, he went to Vrindavan. And then he changed his mind. Why did he change his mind? Did he have a great vision of Krishna coming to tell him, do not kill yourself. You need to suffer in this world to bring me happiness for many more years? No, it didn't happen like this. What happened was that the Vaishnavas told him not to do it. And they not only told him not to take his life, they convinced him through their love. This is one of the most amazing things about these 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Here in the 16th century, we have a whole group of devotees of Mahaprabhu who have come together in Vrindavan. They have quite different backgrounds. We have Rupa and Sanatan. They are the senior ones. They are brothers. They had worked for the Muslim government in Bengal. They had been quite wealthy, influential, very well educated. Then there's Raghunath Das, who was a Kayastha, also from a wealthy background, but not from a Brahmin family, and who had spent all this time with Mahaprabhu in Puri. Then we had Gopala Bhatta Goswami from the south, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami from Varanasi. He had lived in the house just next to Olav's head there in the background. I don't know for real, but it would be nice if that was true. So people from quite different backgrounds. And then Jiva Goswami, the last one to join them, the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan. So we have this kind of, in a way, this kind of family group, Rupa, Sanatan, and Jiva. But the others are from different backgrounds. And there were others as well, of course. Lokanath Goswami, Bhugarbha Goswami, all these other devotees that we can read about in books such as the Bhakti Ratnakara or Chaitanya Charitamrita. And they made a community there in Vrindavan. They made a community of a special kind. They didn't all live together. They didn't all live in the same house or just around the same yard. They stayed in different places, but they stayed together in a very loving way. And we see their love in many different ways in their texts. Raghunath Das, for example, he's constantly speaking about Rupa. He's constantly speaking about Rupa Goswami. Not only speaking, but also molding his prayers, molding his spiritual life on the inspiration of Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis. So he is, in a way, an expansion of them. Because they were so heavy with him, forcing him to write in a particular way? No, not at all. They weren't even staying in the same village. Raghunath Das was staying in Radhakund. He could have done completely his own thing without caring for anybody else, but he wanted to because of his love for them and because of the love they had showed him, the kind of love that had turned his whole life around, so that he had come to realize that yes, it's a terrible thing that Mahaprabhu is not here. And yes, it's terrible that I can't see Radha and Krishna every day. But in this separation, in this vipralambha, there's a particular kind of ecstasy. So in many ways, the best years of his life were the years that he spent there at Radhakund by Govardhan Hill, longing for Krishna, loving Krishna in separation. So for a person who is burning in the separation of Krishna, how should we go about to attain the company of Radha, Krishna, Lalita, Vishakha, and these divine personages that we've heard about in the previous verses? Here, at the end of the Manah-Siksa, Raghunatha Das takes us back to a more earthly, in a sense, to a more practice-oriented understanding of what he's been speaking about, just to make sure we don't miss the practical application of all of this. He says, again, bhajamana, oh my mind, worship. Anudinam, every day, worship Govardhana. Nitya, properly, not in a crazy, chaotic, anarchistic way, but do it in the proper way. So what is this proper way? He says, Samam Shri Rupena, together with Rupa, together with Shri Rupa, together with the blessed Rupa Goswami. How do we worship Govardhan together with Rupa Goswami? Rupa Goswami has not been in this world for almost 500 years. We don't have the opportunity to meet him like Raghunatha Das did. But even he didn't meet him every day. For him, worshipping Govardhana in the company of Shri Rupa, the blessed Rupa Goswami, was to do it under the guidance of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami is like a guru for Raghunatha Das. So he says, Samam Shri Rupena Smara Vivasha Radha Giribritor. If here in Vraja, in the land of Vrindavan, again he's emphasizing the importance of the land of Vrindavan. If you want to attain the direct seva, sakshat seva, right now we're engaging in different types of indirect service to Krishna. But if you want to attain this kind of direct service to Krishna, the kind of service I spoke about the last couple of times, of fanning Krishna and Radha, offering them betel nut and so on, together with there's a mistake here in the text. It should say tad gana yujo, together with their company, their associates. Who Radha Giribrito, Radha and the lifter of the hill, who are bewildered by their love for each other. So if you want to attain direct service to these two, together with their associates, then every day worship Govardhana by drinking panchamrita. Panch or punch, that means a type of drink which includes 5 different spices. What kind of punch are we to drink? A good British punch? Maybe not. Raghunatha Das says, drink a panchamrita, drink a 5-fold nectar consisting of tadijya, akya, dhyana, shravana, and nati. So 5 different things. Which are these 5 different? Tadijya, that's the first one. It means their worship. This refers, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to different types of ritualistic worship, such as what initiated devotees engage in. This can be directed directly to a stone from Govardhana, since each stone of Govardhana embodies the whole hill and embodies all of Krishna, because Krishna is identical with the Govardhan hill. Or then it can be more indirect through a picture or through some other form of Krishna. Ijya also refers to other kinds of rituals of devotion, such as wearing the tilak mark, such as worshipping tulasi. These kind of things that we sometimes think are not so important or rituals or so on, but they are actually very, very important, according to Raghunatha Das, because they give us a chance to practice our love. As Westerners, we kind of have to rethink what we understand by the word love. I spoke about this last time as well. Love is something that we think that you are either you fall in love or then you fall out of love. But the understanding here is that love is something you can practice. You can drop yourself into, if you will. It's not something that just happens to you. It's something that you can make happen as well. So one of these things is ija, worship, ritualistic worship. Akya is the second of the 5. Akya means talk. So talking about Krishna, talking about Govardhana, talking about the adventures of Radha and Krishna. And also, of course, listening. There's no point in one person talking. Somebody needs to be listening as well. There's no point in listening without somebody talking. So these two, they go together. Listening to Krishna Katha. This is the nectar of devotees, like in the Bhagavatam. Tava katamritam tapta jivanam kavibiriditam, and so on. So listening to this kind of songs and talk, discussions about Krishna, that is the nectar for the fallen, conditioned souls. So to engage in drinking nectar through talks, that's the second of the 5. And extremely important. The more we hear about Krishna, the less we're going to hear about other things. That's why it's so great that we have this Tattva Viveka lecture series with lectures every single evening. Somebody mentioned that on the thread on Facebook when Maharaj had asked about it. Somebody said that in the beginning it seemed quite overwhelming. Was it maybe you, Shamananda? I thought exactly the same. Every single evening. I won't have time or energy to listen every single evening. But I have been listening quite often, not every single evening, but quite often. And it's very enlivening. And this is how Krishna Katha works, of course. By absorbing ourselves into talk about Krishna, whether that is directly about Krishna's Leela or Krishna, the philosophy around Krishna, it will purify us. So tad ijakya nati. Nati is the third. Nati means bowing down, offering obeisances. No, I jumped over. Tadijakya dhyana. Sorry, the third one was dhyana, meditation. So meditating on Krishna. Jiva Goswami says, as we heard last time as well, that there are many levels of meditation. Smarana, hearing, that's the first. Just like now we're hearing about how to approach Govardhan. Then the next level is dharana, when we try to fix our mind. Now we're just kind of casually listening, but then when we sit down and try to fix our mind, that's the next level. Then dhyana is the level after that, when we're able to keep the mind focused for some time. Haribol Namarasana, nice to see you here. And then Kanuram has also appeared, and Ganga Shakti. So I'm happy to see more people joining. So that's the third, dhyana. And we shouldn't neglect dhyana. We shouldn't neglect meditation. Many times we emphasize the importance of hearing and chanting, Shravanam and Kirtanam. Or like Guru Maharaj says that when he joined ISKCON in the early 70s, the emphasis wasn't so much on Shravanam and Kirtanam, it was on Skrabanam and Mopanam. That you have to start with something really physical, and then you're kind of, after you've been scrubbing the pots for a month, then you're able to start to take in something more. And this is very true, of course. We should never neglect these kind of simple things. But also we shouldn't be too shy to try to engage also in internal practices, such as dhyana, meditation. We do that, of course, when we're doing our japa, We're trying to fix the mind. We're trying to fix the mind on the name of Krishna. Some devotees also like to, while trying to hear the name, also think of Krishna's leelas, of his pastimes, or have a picture of him in front of them so that they can meditate on how the name and the picture of Krishna are the same. Nevertheless, whatever method we use, to try to get deeper in dhyana as well, meditation. Sometimes people say that I can't meditate because my mind is so restless. Or sometimes you hear people say, when I'm speaking to yoga audiences, that well, I can't do yoga. I'm much too stiff. Have you heard that Sakyarati ever? Yoga is not for me. I'm much too stiff. Or others say that meditation is not for me. My mind is much too restless. Both of those things is like saying, taking a shower. No, that's not for me. I'm much too dirty. If you're stiff, that's when you need this kind of yoga, postural yoga. If your mind is restless, that's when you need meditation. So meditation is something that a beginner can do, not on the same level, of course, as an advanced practitioner, but nevertheless, it's one of these 5 things that Raghunatha Das is here enjoining all of us to do. Ijja, Akya, Dhyana, and then Nati. Nati, bowing down. This is an interesting practice. It's a practice that you can see in many spiritual traditions of bowing down. It's been an important practice in Gaudiya Vaishnavism as well, but somehow it's fallen out of fashion. We read that the Goswamis used to offer hundreds or thousands of obeisances every day. And there are Buddhists who do that still today, have a practice of bowing hundreds times a day. They usually have some kind of small pads that they put on their elbows, and they go down. It's almost like a sun salutation in yoga, again and again and again. And this is what the Goswamis also did. They would bow down to every single Vaishnava they met. They would bow down to Govardhan Hill. They would bow down to Radhakund. And it's a wonderfully powerful practice as well. I once did, I'm sure there are many devotees here who've done that, a Dandavat Parikrama, not around Govardhan Hill. Some people do that as well, but that takes a long time. But I've done it around Radhakund. And it took a few hours, getting up really early in the morning before there's so much traffic. And then bowing down like a stick on the ground, and then getting up in the place where your hands are, and then bowing again, and like this, clockwise around Radhakund. And it's many years ago, so I don't remember that much, but I remember how humbling an experience it was, because of course there were people even there early in the morning. The streets in Radhakund are not super clean. There's pigs, there's dust, there's mud. You're really there down in the mud, in the dust. You can't imagine something more simple, more kind of anybody could do that. You don't need any university education. Everybody can get down and dirty just around Radhakund and covering yourself literally with the dust of the holy place. So this is a powerful practice, bowing down, and a practice that we can cultivate. And again, not think that this is just something very simple, that when I see a Vaishnava, I'll just be, Haribol, nice to see you, bye-bye, see you again. But taking the trouble to bow down, literally bow down to the ground. I mentioned it in one of Padmanabh Maharaja's lectures, how I met Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, who was a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, one of the last disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and he lived until he was about 100. And I met him the first time when he was maybe 99 or something, and moving very difficult time to move. His body was all, his back was like Jagannath Das Babaji's back, arched like a bow. And I saw him outside one small temple in Nandagram, and he was there together with some of his disciples visiting that temple, and he bowed down in front of the Sri Murtis in that temple, like a proper dandavat on the ground. And it took him like 10 minutes to get down, and then 10 minutes to get up again, because he was so old and frail. But he took that trouble every temple that they visited, and then they were on parikrama, so they would see many temples. He was just bowing down, getting up, walking 5 steps, bowing down, getting up. This 100-year-old man. And I was thinking, wow. I was perhaps 25 at that time. I was thinking, wow, he's 100 years old and I'm 25 and I'm more lazy than him. So nati, the practice of bowing down, is a very powerful practice. And then the last one, shravana, hearing. Shravanam, kirtanam, Vishnu smaranam. These are the 3 first practices in Prahlad Maharaja's 9-fold bhakti list. Shravanam, hearing. So it's here as well. Worship, speaking, meditating, bowing down, and listening. When we engage in these 5 activities, connected with Krishna and connected with Govardhan Hill, Raghunath Das is saying, we will attain direct seva, sakshat seva, towards Radha and Giridhari, Radha Giri Brit. So it sounds very simple. And it is very simple. This is an important point. The Vaishnava philosophy is in many ways a very complicated and detailed philosophy. But all of this philosophy is meant to inspire us to engage in basically quite simple things. Basically, everything is very simple. If we just would be able to get rid of the things that are holding us back, all of these things that Raghunath Das was speaking about in the previous verses, lust, greed, desire for recognition, desire for fame. It's simple, but it's not always very easy. Maharaj put a question on Facebook that any feedback about the lectures. And people started putting feedback and telling things that they had liked. Everybody was very polite. Nobody criticized anything. But in a very nice Vaishnava spirit, many of us wrote things there, what had been good. And somebody wrote, more lectures by Bhrigupada. And immediately I was like, oh, that's a nice person. And somebody else liked that. And yes, nice persons. These are good people. So this kind of desire for recognition, this kind of desire for praise and honor, they are very difficult to root out of the heart, especially from my heart. So it's simple things, but not always the easiest. So we need to rehear these things. That's why Shravana is so important, hearing. To hear these teachings. And when we've heard them enough, maybe they will start to act on us. Maybe we'll start to realize that, yes, actually, there's something behind it. So let's go to the last verse. I'll share the screen again with you. Manah-Siksa-kadashakavarametan maduraya. Manah-Siksa-kadashakavarametan maduraya. Manah-Siksa-kadashakavarametan maduraya. Manah-Siksa-kadashakavarametan maduraya. Giragayatyuchai Samadigata Sarvartayatiya. Giragayatyuchai Samadigata Sarvartayatiya. Giragayatyuchai Samadigata Sarvartayatiya. Giragayatyuchai Samadigata Sarvartayatiya. Sayutha Shri Rupanuga iha bhavan Gokulavane. 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 Jano Radha Krishna Tulabhadana Ratnam Salabate. 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 The last verse of the Manah-Siksa is not an instruction to the mind anymore. The first 11 verses are really the book itself. The last verse is what's called the Phalashruti, or the fruit of listening. It's a tradition for Sanskrit poets to, at the end of their work, offer a benediction to the reader or the listener. You find this in religious texts, you find them in secular texts. But of course, when the author is a person that can actually offer a benediction, when it's not just a poet like Kalidasa or somebody else, but a person who actually has love for Krishna. In these cases, of course, hearing what the benediction will be particularly interesting. Raghunatha Das says, Yaha, he who, or she who, with a sweet voice, Madhuraya Gira, Gayati Uchai. He who, or the one who, with a loud voice and sweetly sings these 11 verses of instructions to the mind, and who meditates on their meaning, will hear in Gokulavana, in the forest of Gokula, Gokula referring to the village of the cows, to Vrindavan, together with or following Sri Rupa again, and his associates Sayutha, attain, that person Janaha will attain the treasure of incomparable worship to Radha and Krishna. So Raghunatha Das is saying, anyone who recites these 11 verses of instructions to the mind with a loud, sweet voice and meditating on their meaning, and who follows Sri Rupa, who's a Rupanuga, who follows Sri Rupa and his associates here in the forest of Gokula, will attain the worship of Radha and Krishna. So he's promising us not a small thing. Radha Krishna Tula Bhajana Ratnam. Ratna means a gem or a treasure. The treasure of incomparable bhajana, incomparable worship of Radha and Krishna. So in order to gain this treasure, when we hear about this, a ratna, a jewel, I want that. He's saying, you just need to do a few things. You just need to recite these verses and sing them in a sweet voice. What's a sweet voice? Well, a sweet voice is as sweet as we can. We all have different types of voices. For years, I had the impression that my voice is the voice of a crow, I was very self-conscious about my voice. I'm not very good at leading kirtan or anything like that, but at least I've overcome this idea that I have a terrible voice. I have a normal voice. And we all have quite normal voices. Some have amazing voices, but we all have quite enough sweet voices. So just the best as we can to learn these verses. I hope you've taken the opportunity while studying the Manah-Siksa here to learn these verses. They are a little bit more difficult than learning verses from the Bhagavad Gita. They're a little bit longer, but they're not terribly difficult. And there's only 12 of them, even counting this last one. So you can learn one a week, and in 12 weeks, you've learned the whole thing. And then if you just keep up reciting them, you'll remember them easily. And you can make it a part of your spiritual practices to recite one verse of the Manah-Siksa or each verse every day with a sweet voice, as sweetly as you can. Uchchai, loudly, doesn't mean like Manah-Siksa, but it just means that not just silently, but using your voice, using the energy of the body to make it kind of vibrate in your body, feel that you're saying these verses. And think about their meaning, not just like a trained parrot or like a musician singing something that you've sung on stage for 1 billion times, but meditating on their meaning. Sarvar tatatiya. Meditating on their meaning. This is, of course, more important than having a sweet voice, to be able to understand the meaning and to keep the meaning in mind while you're reciting. And then one more thing. Being in the mood of a Rupanuga. The word Rupanuga means somebody who's anuga, or who follows behind Sri Rupa. Sri Rupa, we heard about already many times here in the Manah-Siksa. Raghunatha Das, he's not hiding his love for Sri Rupa Goswami. I think it's so sweet. He's not hiding it at all. He's mentioning it again and again. Sri Rupa, Sri Rupa, Sri Rupa. This saint from Bengal, he's my guru. Sometimes we hear that you should keep your guru secret. Gopayed sva gurum. Our Srila Padmanabh Maharaj was speaking about this in the Vaishnava etiquette series. Keep the guru secret. Raghunatha Das is not following this advice. He's proclaiming the glories of Sri Rupa Goswami loud. So to be a follower of Rupa Goswami, for Raghunatha Das, is an obvious thing. To hear his advice, to ask questions of him, sometimes being told off by Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami once, or maybe it was Sanatan Goswami, but one of these came to Radhakund and saw Raghunatha Das sitting in the middle of the summer, sitting and meditating in the sun. And in Vrindavan, just yesterday I spoke with a friend in Vrindavan. He said that it was 35 degrees. And it's not even summer yet, it's just spring there. So in the summer, it might get even 50 degrees centigrade, which is, it's hellishly hot. It's so hot that at least if you're a northerner like me, you practically faint just going out in the sunshine. So he was sitting there meditating in the sunshine. And he would probably have died because he was so absorbed in his meditation that he was completely oblivious of the world. So there was a girl standing there, shading him with the end of her sari, making sure that he doesn't get too hot there in the sun. And Rupa or Sanatana Goswami, maybe somebody here remembers the story better than me, saw this and realized, that's Radha. That's Radha shading him with her sari, because she can't bear the idea that her devotee would suffer a sunstroke. So he was completely amazed seeing this. And then when Raghunatha Das meditation broke and Radha disappeared, he went up to Raghunatha Das Goswami and told him off. What are you doing? You're sitting here like a crazy man in the sun, forcing Radha to serve you. We are supposed to serve Radha, and you're making Radha serve you, you idiot. So Raghunatha Das was sometimes being told off by Rupa Goswami. Sometimes he was praised by Rupa Goswami. Sometimes he praised Rupa Goswami. And perhaps, we don't know, but perhaps he also told him off sometimes. Because they loved each other. They had this kind of intimate love where you can praise each other, but also say, Bhrigupada, that wasn't very good. So being a Rupa Anuga means being under the guidance of Rupa Goswami. We don't meet Rupa Goswami like Raghunatha Das did, but we can study Rupa Goswami's texts. We can study the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Ujjvala Nilamani, all the songs of Rupa Goswami. He has so many beautiful songs. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhvadaite, Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Manasamadukaram Arpayani Japada Pankaja Makarande. All of these songs, it's a huge, like a whole treasure of song and scripture that he has left for us, that we as his followers can dive into and study and engage our minds with. Being a Rupa Anuga is sometimes also understood in a more esoteric way as being a person who follows Rupa Goswami also in his internal identity as Rupa Manjari. That is, as a person who has the same kind of mood of love towards Radha and Krishna that Rupa Manjari has, and who aspires to become a part of the same group of little girls serving Radha and Krishna, like Rupa Manjari. This, of course, is the aspiration of Raghunatha Das and many other Vaishnavas as well. Here in the Manah-Siksa, we've seen that it's focused on Radha and Krishna, practically from the beginning to the end. We can love Krishna in other ways as well, particularly as a cowherd boy. But for Raghunatha Das Goswami, the mood that he loves Krishna is in this madhurya bhava, this madhurya rasa. So when he speaks about being a Rupanuga, he means both following Rupa Goswami, the philosophy and teachings of Rupa Goswami, but also the internal example of Rupa Manjari. But Rupanuga, a follower of Rupa, doesn't necessarily mean the second part. It always means a person who follows the philosophy and teachings of Rupa Goswami, but whether that person also follows Rupa Manjari, the internal side of Rupa Goswami, that's not always the case. And we see this also in the way how Bhaktivinoda Thakur understands this term. So a person who does these things, who sings these verses, who thinks about them, and who cultivates consciously the mood of a Rupa Anuga, such a person, Raghunatha Das is saying, will attain this incomparable treasure of service and worship of Radha and Krishna. Now, this is the blessing of Raghunatha Das Goswami. I'm not a person like Raghunatha Das Goswami. I do not have the power to give you any blessings. But I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me this opportunity to share whatever little I know about these things that have been spoken about in this wonderful little book by Raghunatha Dasa Goswami. I want to thank our Sripad Padmanabh Maharaj for engaging me in this service. And all of you for having turned up, some of you every single time, some almost every time, others more irregularly, but I'm really, really happy that you've all been here. I would have done this even if only Saragrahi would have been here, but it wouldn't have been as much fun as much as I enjoy her company. So I'm very happy that you're all here, and I pray that you forgive me if I've said anything incorrectly or if I have overstepped my eligibility for speaking about sometimes these very high topics. Are there any questions or comments before we end this series?
I have a question, Bhrighupada Prabhu.
Yes.
Yes. Where can I find? I love the way that you chant the verses, and I would like to learn to chant them like you. So, do you have can you recommend where I can find a recording of them?
Well, I guess all of these, or guessing all of these lectures have been recorded.
Okay.
So you can go back. Otherwise, I'm sure that there are recordings available of the Manah-Siksa elsewhere. I don't know exactly where, but the meter of the Manah-Siksa is the same as that of the, for example, the Jagannatha Ashtakam. So if you find a recording of that, then you'll be able to sing it in the same way. And there are other ways also. It's a particular type of meter. So as for all Sanskrit meters, there are different melodies that can be used for them. Anything else?
Hare Krishna, Bhigu. We would like to thank you very much for this wonderful seminar, because you talk about very high topics, but in very comfortable for us style, yes? Yeah, it was a little sense of humor. It was very, really high topic, but we can digest this. It was very important. And also, personally, some issues really moved my heart, and it was like a start of some spiritual issues first time. Some very difficult about recognition, was many. About gossips was also very good seminar, because yeah, we just talk so much about mundane things, and we don't think about this. But I think it's a very important issue. Yeah. So we wait for more. We would like to participate in another of your seminars, because we like your style. We like your style, like a person, as a beautiful Vaishnava. So I hope that we will see you together. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Rasana. I'm very touched by what you say. You know how much I appreciate you as a Vaishnavi also. You're a wonderful, wonderful person. So thank you very much for what you said. And as you say, many of the topics here are topics that we could have spoken much more about, like this danger of gossiping, for example. It's just one example. So there's definitely room for saying more things. Padmanabh Maharaj, he is pushing me So he has already forced me to give another seminar. It's not that difficult to force me to do that. But he wanted me to give another seminar starting now in May. It will be a shorter one, only 4 parts, and it will be about how to give class.
Oh.
So it will be kind of a more hands-on series. I haven't planned it through completely yet, but I have some ideas, and I hope many of you will be able to take part. And I also hope that many of you will, because Padmanabh Maharaj, he's trying to get more people engaged in giving different lectures, and for example, Shamananda will start a series also. So I hope that more and more devotees will step up and give series on whatever lecture series on whatever topics that they are comfortable with and that they're inspired by, because I believe very much in this that it's a richness to have variety. Not everybody needs to be the same, but to have different types of lectures, then there will be something that will be inspiring for everybody, because no one person except for Guru Maharaj, he can speak in a way that inspires everybody, but others not so much. So if we had many different Vaishnavas speaking in different ways, then there'll be something for everybody.
Yes, and you also talking about the status of things, which sometimes we don't know to discuss. Yes. So it was very important Raghunatha Goswami's very characteristic feature in our Sampradaya. So it's so nice that you talk about this Manah-Siksa. So important book.
Thank you.
Bhrighupada Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Oh, I don't know what's happening with me, but with whoever's answered so far, there's a lot of noise coming, a lot of shrill noise. It's hard to hear when someone says something.
Yeah, I think it was a bad connection or something.
Okay. But thank you. Yeah, it's been wonderful. I've thoroughly enjoyed your classes and look forward to the next one.
Thank you. So again, thank you all very much for giving me your company. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhara Giridhari Shri Shri Radharman Mohan Radha Govinda Radha Gopinatha Radha Rama Radha Shama Sundara Radha Rama Radha Gokurananda Radha Madhava Dev Gopal Nitai Go Shri Sarvabhuj Giriraj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Parvarang Supravrajaka Stotra Stashi Shimad Bhakti Vedanta Tripurari Dev Goswami Maharaj Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Jai Nitya Pravishta Vishnu Pad Bhai Charana Arvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nitya Pravishta Vishnu Pad Bhakti Rakshak Shri Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Pravishta Vishnu Pad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Thakur Ki Jai Jai Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Sachidananda Moy Thakur Bhakti Vinod Ki Jai Jai Vaishnava Sarvama Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Gauri Vedanta Acharya Shri Balali Bidibhushan Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai Jai Srinivasa Mananda Narottam Prabhu Trai Ki Jai Jai Krishna Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Vyasavata Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur Mahashai Ki Jai Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiv Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Shri Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Jai Rai Ramananda Rai Ramananda Swarupa Damara Radhi Gaur Parshva Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Prim Sagosha Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Shri Antardvip Mayapur Simantadvip Madhyadvip Koladvip Ritudvip Chanudvip Madhyadvip Modradvip Godurmadvip Rudradvip Atmaka Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopiko Govardhana Radha Shvaratmaka Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Dvadashopam ki jai. Jai Radhakunda Shamakunda Giri Govardhan. Tulsi Devi, Bhakti Devi, Ganga Yamuna Devi ki jai. Jai Shri Purushottam Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshana ki jai. Jai Bhakti Vigna Vinashana Kar Shri Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Varavarat Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Char Vaishnava Sampradaya ki jai. Char Vaishnava Acharya ki jai. Char Ram ki jai. Char Vir ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Raghunatha Dasa Manah-Siksa ki jai. Jai Agaramata Chaitanya ki jai. Tariya Shakhamata Suma ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Sangha ki jai. Anantagata Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Bhuvan Mangal Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhaktirinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyavcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.
Sripad Bhrighupada Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you so much
Hello.
for the series.
Thank you.
Thank you, and looking forward to your series, Shamananda.
Oh.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, looking forward to your series, Shamananda.
Oh.
There you go.